Young men in America are in trouble. By just about every measure, they're in crisis. Boys are less likely to graduate high school. Young men are less likely to enroll in or graduate college. Over the last 10 years, so-called deaths of despair, that's suicide, overdose, or deaths from drug and alcohol abuse, have spiked for men under 30. So let's say you're a teenage boy or a young man dealing with despair, loneliness, angst, and all the other negative emotions that can plague us. Where do you go for help? The answer's almost always the same. Go online. On social media, streaming video and podcasts, young men search for the answers to their questions. And there they are bombarded with influence.
I'm going to give you the perfect morning routine, and this will change your life.
Popular figures preach push-ups and self-control. They urge their followers to hit the gym, to pray, to eat well. But there's a more extreme edge to this seeming normality.
Women are inferior to men, and I'll explain why. They're inferior in every way. They're weaker, they're smaller, they're shorter.
So I won't date a girl who's older than 25.
Your time in the education system conditioned you to be more of a pushover, weak and feminine.
I wanted to really understand this world. So I started where so many of these young lost boys start, in a gym on the outskirts of Fontana, California. Super Batiste Mansouri's gym is a no-frills training space for people who want to practice mixed martial arts. The gym's essentially one room. Fans blow into the sweaty air, mats pad the floor and are propped up against the walls where sometimes they slip off. But make no mistake, there's work being done here. Young men and women visit every afternoon and evening to take a class and spar. Can you tell us a little bit about the young men who tend to come to your gym? What's their kind of socioeconomic background? What's their family life like, or is it all over the place?
It's all over the place. You get a crowd that have kids that are smaller, weaker, intimidated, low confidence. And then in the same week, you'll get a student that is alpha and thinks they're ready to compete in professional fighting in 3 weeks.
One of the young men I met at the gym is Arthur Espinosa, a 17-year-old who lives in Fontana, about a half-hour walk away. Arthur's only been sparring at Batiste's gym for a couple of months, but he dreams of becoming a professional fighter once he finishes high school.
I go every day to the MMA gym. I love to fight. I always watched these UFC fighters on TV. The first one I've watched was like 2 years ago, and I've been addicted ever since.
Arthur comes from a broken home. He was put into foster care at a young age, and he now lives with his grandparents, although he's still close with his dad. And he's pretty open about the loneliness in his life and how the gym helped him find purpose.
Before the gym, I really didn't have anywhere to go. I was just home. So me going to the gym, it keeps me busy, and I'm doing something I love, and I love being there.
Arthur's also very open about how online influencers have helped him with training and other issues in his life, like dealing with relationships. How much of an influence do you think influencers have on you?
I do look up to these people. So when I see videos of them like putting in the work or talking about certain things that I may be going through, you know, it helps me a lot. So I would say a pretty big part.
And would you say that's typical for guys your age?
Yeah, I would say so a lot. It's like motivation. It's like dopamine. If I need something, I can, you know, look them up, and then I will have this feeling where I'm like, oh, okay, like, you know, let me get up, you know, let me do what I need to do.
Arthur told me he'd been feeling pretty cut up recently over a breakup, pretty alone. So he went on TikTok and he checked out some videos by an MMA fighter named Ilia Tuporia.
He talks about how if you're feeling alone, he told me that if you feeling like that, then, you know, to call people. And that's what I was feeling alone last night. And I seen that video yesterday night, and I was calling like everybody on my phone. Until someone picked up.
But a lot of the time, Arthur told me, he turns to a specific influencer for advice, Andrew Tate.
I hate the idea of a world where a man who dedicates himself to excellence so he can enjoy the finer things in life is criticized and ostracized and called horrible names purely because he's been a hard-working male. And I don't like young men hearing these extremist ideas.
The former champion kickboxer made millions in the porn webcam business before becoming a central figure in what experts call the Manosphere, self-improvement content aimed at young, lonely men that can promote toxic masculinity. Andrew Tate. By show of hands, who's a fan? Alright, so most of you, pretty much, okay.
Andrew Tate gets a lot of attention, and I think it's important to note he's one of about, like 1,000 people like him who are influencers who promote the same kinds of ideas. But he's a good one to choose because he has such popularity. I think that something like 20% of young men in the US generally approve of him.
Cynthia Miller-Idris runs the Polarization and Extremism Research and Innovation Lab, or PERIL, at American University in Washington, D.C. Tate, she says, preaches a vitriolic message of victimhood to his audience. He tells them they need to get strong and healthy, but he also tells them they need to be, like him, an absolute misogynist in order to truly appeal to women and not be controlled by them.
I am absolutely sexist and I'm absolutely a misogynist.
That comes alongside other messages. Women can't be trusted to drive cars.
I don't let women drive me in cars. Everyone loses their mind when I say this.
A woman's body belongs to the man she's with.
I said that if a woman is going out with a man, she belongs to that man. That's his woman. So if she wants to do OnlyFans, she owes him some money because she's his.
And women can't be relied on and need to be dominated.
A man can only cheat if he loves someone else. If she even talks to a dude, it's cheating.
These messages have given Tate an enormous reach.
I think there's a whole genre of performative anger that happens online, not just from guys like Andrew Tate, but others who are comedians, influencers. It feels good. It's like candy, right, for guys who are angry to have somebody perform that kind of outrage. Even if it might have the deniability of a joke, it still kind of conveys dehumanizing ideas that make young boys and men, I think, sometimes feel more powerful, even for a few minutes.
Off the screen, Tate's actions have earned him lawsuits for sexual assault and battery, and criminal charges for rape and human trafficking, charges he denies. But online, he still attracts legions of fans with the sort of messaging that boys like Arthur and his friends eat up.
I think what we're seeing is movement in real time from the fringes to the mainstream in some of these ideas, coupled with a presidential campaign and appointments of several high senior men who had histories of credible accusations of domestic abuse, of sexual assault, trials of sexual assault. This normalization or legitimization of violence against women in interpersonal spheres is also really relevant here.
I think it's like the lesser of evils because you have a lot of social media like bullshit out there, and I think the Andrew Tate videos are the good videos.
I'll applaud everything the man says because it's hilarious. How do you not laugh at it? He hits women. Do you get hit? If you get hit, okay, you're triggered, whatever. It's not that big a deal. If nobody watched him, it wouldn't matter. Everybody'd be like, oh, that's the dude that hits chicks. Well, then that's life.
And it's not just the teens. Batiste, the man all these boys look up to, he's a big Andrew Tate fan.
I feel like he's misunderstood because people are taking bits and pieces of what he says, and they're highlighting those bits and pieces rather than listening to the entire situation that he was talking about.
What's misunderstood about saying, I'm a misogynist?
I feel like there is a piece of society that is highly rich and successful. They have kind of a hidden life that I think he exploits. I just think he's the first one who's bringing it to the limelight.
Although his support only goes so far. Are you a father yourself?
No.
If you had a daughter, how would you feel about your daughter, dating Andrew Tate?
Hell no.
Tate declined a request for an interview. Through his New York attorney, Joseph McBride, Tate sent USA Today a long statement. To our question about whether he defines himself a misogynist, this is what he responded. My message is not against the good mothers and wives in this world. My message is against the wolves in sheep's clothing that rape and pillage men's lives. My message is designed to help him realize that his ability to achieve is limitless, which is why he should cease living a life of slavery and captivity immediately. When I first learned there were a bunch of Andrew Tate fans at Batisse's gym, I expected to find a group of monsters. I thought they'd be ranting sexism, frothing about how much they hate women. But that's not what I found.
We have a lot of pressure on us to be successful, and that comes from anywhere, especially social media. You're seeing rappers, musicians, you're seeing actors, all these people with a lot of money that we don't have.
And Andrew Tate steps into that a little bit and gives some guidance.
Well, yeah, he does. He just gives people hope, like as far as men go. There's not a lot of good male role models out there, and I'm not saying he's the best person to look up to, but if you're picking and choosing things, there is a lot more good than bad that you could take from him.
I asked one of the young women at Batisse's gym what she thought of all of this.
I work with a group of second graders. I adore these second graders, but they're mostly boys. A lot of them look up to social media influencers. They look up to people like Andrew Tate. And I've noticed this past year, it's been a serious issue with the way that they have started treating the girls. They're not learning that from home because I get to talk to their parents. I get to see how their parents treat them. Like, they hear these things they're saying and they're appalled.
I see where she's coming from 100%. Of course, if the kids are seeing Andrew Tate talk about these things at such a young age, they're gonna believe it, you know. But I don't think Andrew Tate's the one to blame.
We map misogynistic and anti-Semitic content, and right now the top intersection of misogynistic content with other harmful content is anti-Semitic. So Manosphere content often then leads to rabbit holes that introduce anti-Semitism, racism, other types of harms too.
So what's the solution here? If young men in their tens of millions are reaching for their phones and scrolling through TikTok for answers, and if they're finding men pushing masculinity and fitness alongside toxic misogyny, then where are young men supposed to turn? Are there really not enough positive male role models out there who are strong and brave and disciplined, but who also respect and trust women? I wanted to find someone who could fit the role of providing hope to young men, someone who teaches masculinity without the toxicity. And it led me across the country to a training academy in Detroit, Michigan. At the Cave of Adullam, young kids and adults learn about discipline and improving their emotional intelligence through martial arts. The program's founder, Jason Wilson, is an author and teacher. He says his faith and willingness to change for the better helped him navigate the trauma that he faced during his childhood and early adult life. Although he wouldn't describe himself as an influencer, he's amassed popularity on the internet for his focus on healthy masculinity.
The Cave of Adullam was birthed from my desire to give young men who look like me in my community, who were misguided, an opportunity to be taught, trained, and transformed, to be challenged but not condemned, show them the narrow path to manhood.
Can we talk a little bit about this idea of a crisis among the nation's young men?
I believe we've always been in trouble. We just did a better job at hiding it. There wasn't social media. We didn't have the knowledge of how dangerous it is to repress your emotions. I see with the young men that I serve, we've been doing this now in the union, our nonprofit, for over 22 years. And I've never seen so many boys with a great fear of failure, hyper anxious, even apathy at times. I often tell men and young men that there's no freedom in the facade, and this Superman cape that we've been wearing for decades is now strangling the life out of men. This false manhood, we've been hoodwinked, and it's not giving us any peace, definitely no rest. And so if the men in this village can't release their trauma, how can you help young boys?
Bang, bang, ha ha, bang, come on, bang, elbow, bang, 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 good job.
Jason doesn't talk about any specific influencers who teach hypermasculinity on the internet, but he says he understands the reasons why some of their messages tend to be so negative towards women.
The cause and effect for many of the men who influence young men to walk the path that they believe. When you really sit down with men like that, childhood trauma is there, emotional abuse, physical abuse, bullying. It's actually rooted in more anger than wisdom. I had a UFC fighter call me one day. I wrote about it in my latest book, and he was on the edge. And later I found out he was like, hey man, I'm not gonna make it. I had one of the toughest men in UFC history come in my office and break down because of the trauma he needed to release. That's where strength lies.
It's very important having those figures, like you say, to look up to and to look for guidance. When you don't have that, you guys don't understand because you haven't been there. I didn't live with my parents till 12. I was doing whatever. So if I would have heard a guy like Andrew Tate, he would have drove me to do the negative stuff more than the motivational stuff. But if it's a majority of men that think like him, it's not good.
I'm not sure if the conversation I had with the men at the gym will change their minds or stop them from looking up guidance from controversial influencers like Andrew Tate, but I do believe it helped provide some perspective for them. And maybe it's that kind of face-to-face dialogue with friends like Brenda or Rupert, or with mentors like Jason, someone outside the manosphere and away from the viral videos and algorithms, that's really needed to help young men who feel alone. I asked Cynthia about this as well.
Some of it is just being more open and these discussions, having these conversations. We're starting a program with colleges and high schools through esports and gaming clubs, getting college students to talk with high school boys about it, anything that families can do. One of the things we find about parents is we encourage them to talk with their kids about this. The number one place they talk to kids about this is in the car. So that's really interesting.
You gotta get out the way of the foolishness.
I also asked Jason if he has a message for the men we talk to in California and for the millions of other lonely young men that he will never get to meet and help.
You know that you're not strong all the time. You know, just like every other human being, you deal with depression, anxiety, fear, sadness, and you want to release it. But staying in a dark place will always prohibit you from seeing the light. So I tell those men, and I say this again without knowing them, don't live from fear. So many men have lost their lives and still breathing because they live from fear. To live from the good in your heart, instead of this having to fit into an image or a box that you're too big for.